Are you guys ready to make some picks and props for the Super Bowl already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Sure.
Let's
Why
do
not?
it. Let's start with the first touchdown scorer in this game. Will, who you got?
Yeah. So this is a market that I love to dabble in and have dabbled in frequently. But I got to tell you, these odds are not particularly great. And that's not me knocking the kind folks at Caesars. I'm just telling you that when you look at the first touchdown scorer, it is difficult to find any real value. There are, 6 guys under 10-1? I mean, that's kind of crazy. It just shouldn't be that low, but the books just don't want to get burnt. So I think the move here, honestly, is you can either mess around with somebody like Van Jefferson, who we don't know his status. I don't mind Tyler Boyd, I guess, at 13-1. Should really be more like 20-1, if we're being honest. I think you just bet Cooper Kupp. You just hammer Cooper Kupp and don't try and sprinkle around and get lucky. Just lay a hammer down on Cooper Kupp at 4-1. He is the red zone target. He is the best receiver on the field, all due respect to Jamar Chase. And I do anticipate the Rams having a faster start in this game, potentially, than the Bengals. So I think Kupp is the play there, even though it's not really value at 4-1.
So I went and swung for the fences and found one of those value guys in Van Jefferson, who you mentioned before. And I think this is all about finding the role players, because with an extra week to prepare, typically defense is kind of dialed in on, you got the Triple Crown winner in Cooper Kupp. Clearly, you better hope you have a plan to contain him, not only, between the 20s, but when you come down the red zone. And then that provides some opportunities for some role players. And Odell Beckham, I'm sure, is going to, get a lot of attention as well. So then if Van Jefferson's out in the field, just strictly by matchups, where the ball can go, I think that provides some opportunity. And at 13-1, I think it's worth a flyer here on him. But you're probably right. This probably should be even better value at, an 1,800-1 or something like, or plus 1,800 or somewhere along those lines. But I'll go ahead and take a shot at Van Jefferson. I played with his dad, too, in the Atlanta Falcons, Sean Jefferson, one of my favorite teammates. So I'm always rooting for him.
And Danny, you think this is going to happen on the Rams' first drive of the game?
Yeah, so when we look at the first possession, what is the outcome going to be? This, to me, goes to more the explosive firepower. And Sean McVay, great, both offensive minds, but I'm very curious to see how Cincinnati's pass pro holds up. I think that'll be a work in progress in the game. Whereas the Rams, they come out, you get a first 15 scripted plays. I think there's to be some big plays dialed up there from Sean McVay in that, home stadium, which I know they probably, crowd noise might be an issue for them again, although Cincinnati's going to travel pretty well. Typically, the Super Bowl is not something you have to deal with, so communication shouldn't be any part there. I could see them coming out, striking, taking a shot early. They did it. They've done it several games with Matthew Stafford earlier this season. Dialed up a shot play early, see if you can hit a big play, get his confidence going, kind of open up the run game with a big shot down the field. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they hit on it.
Okay, I'll follow. I would go punt here. I think for the Rams' first drive, the odds are not. It's minus 101 or minus 101 for the LA first drive. The thing with Sean McVay and with all of these coaches, really, when you get to the Super Bowl, we're talking about conservative coaches, who are, likely going to punt on a fourth down, even if it's at or around midfield. They have to, especially with these two teams, I believe they trust their defenses. They don't want to put the opposing offenses in particularly favorable situations. And so I'll go punt spot.
And Will, you're calling for a pretty bleak first quarter, because you have the Bengals punting as well, and the odds here minus 122.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Chris, you look at these two teams, they got great offenses, and the scripted plays that Danny mentioned are definitely the concern, especially if the Rams decide to, dial up one of those big plays, and they could absolutely do it. But I do think, you're going to have, this is Sean McVay's second time in the Super Bowl, so he won't be overwhelmed. Zach Taylor, I think, is going to be extremely the stage might catch up to him there early on. And both of these teams love to run the football. I know that, young offensive minds are treated as aggressive play callers and, innovative offensive geniuses. I'm not saying they're not, but I do think you're going to see both of these teams be a little more conservative with their approach to the run game. And I think you can see a run-pass situation on both sides of the ball for them. And if you get an incomplete pass or short of the sticks, you're probably going to get a punt there. Also, again, I think you get a 4th and 3 or something like that around midfield. Wouldn't be surprised if they both punted, given that they have a lot of faith in their defenses.
And that's why you can't find any value. That's why I'm a sucker for it. That's why I went touchdown for the Rams. But for the Bengals, I'm going to go field goal because of the weapon they have in Evan McPherson, who's been a great storyline for them. The former Florida Gator has come out and been spectacular with game winner after game winner. Clutch is the call, and he's got some pretty good range there too. So I went with field goal here for the opportunity at some points early in this game. I'm more concerned about the pass protection. But one thing Burrow showcased, and I'm sure he'll have to do it a lot in this game too, is his mobility. So maybe he can extend a couple of those drives, get down to the red zone, and once they get down there, they've got, all you have to do is get, within a 55-yard field goal range, and McPherson has shown the leg to be able to do it. So I went with the field goal, maybe to find some value there on the Bengals' first drive.
All right, Danny, so for a first half bet, you've got the Rams scoring a touchdown on their first drive, the Bengals attempting a field goal on their first drive, but your first half bet is actually the under 24. How does that add up?
See, now this, to be fair, we were talking earlier, and Noah, our producer, was like, hey, can you give us something? Like, get us. So I sold you on the reasons why I went for value. But if you noticed, both of Will's plays, the punts, they're minus value.
Yeah.
So there's nothing there, which is what is probably going to happen. So I swung for the fences a little bit. But on the first half total, I'm going with a bet that I think is probably going to be one of my favorite ones in this game. Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford's first time there, Joe Burrow's first time there. The Bengals haven't been there in a long time. And I gave the sell for the first, scripted play touchdowns. But to me, with the extra time to prepare, the offenses are a little bit more tentative, a little bit more cautious. Some of those first 15 plays that both coaches will probably go to are specifically designed just to give you a feel for what the defense is going to do. All right, what do they do in this formation? What do they do with this motion? And if the play works, great. If it doesn't, you put it back in your memory and you come back to it later. But a lot of those, first play calls are just, it's part of the chess match that unfolds. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see a lower scoring first half as those defenses jockey for position. The Bengals have been an awful first half team anyway. Just get them to the second half. So that to me is one of my favorite plays, is the under the first half of 24.
Yeah, I love the under as well, and yeah, like Danny and I both agreed on the punts. It's the favored situation, right? I do think you will see a feeling out of sorts when it comes to these two teams, and we saw 21-10 versus Chiefs versus the Bengals. I mean, that was the Chiefs going absolutely nuclear on offense and could have gotten even more points, and that still barely got over. And it required like a 41-yard screen pass to Samaje Perine that he had jailbroke because a bunch of Chiefs defenders fell down around him. So I do think you'll see methodical, a lot of runs. You look at the performance by the Rams against the Patriots in that Super Bowl, and I realize that the Bengals maybe not as good defensively as that Pats team, and certainly not possessing Bill Belichick on the other side. But I mean, it was a very slow start to that game in terms of their performance. Plus, look at the total overall for this game. It was 50 earlier today. It's now down to 49. So I mean, I know you don't just split it just in half. I mean, you kind of do just split it just in half, right? But 24 for the first half total. Interesting that it's less than half of that full game total. I expect we see more scoring after the initial sort of exploration of how these teams are going to approach this particular game.
Okay, going for the total there in the first half, both like in the under 24. Will mentioned that the game line is moving a bit. It's now gone from 50 to 49 on the total, and the line's up to 4.5. I mean, you could have looked at maybe 24 hours ago, and it would have been 3.5 in some places, but up to 4.5 for the Rams now. Will, which side of that game line are you on?
I mean, I'm pounding this drum. It's like, don't bet against Joe Burrow in a big game. Certainly don't want to bet against Joe Burrow. Bet against Joe Burrow. He's going to burn you. He's a stone cold killer. I'm betting against Joe Burrow anyway. Give me the Rams. The Rams are look, honestly, you look at this game and it's kind of simple. The Rams are a better coach team. They have more superstars on their roster. They have more veteran talent. They have a much better, in my opinion, defense, although the Bengals sneaky defensive team. The advanced analytics say the Rams are a top 5 team in football, and the Bengals, by DVOA, really more like a top 15, top 20 team in football. The Bengals have sort of lived on these third down conversions. They've lived on getting lucky. They just magically shut out the Chiefs for all but like one possession of an entire half in the AFC Championship game. So all of these arguments for the Rams make a ton of sense. And then if somebody asks you, well, it's like, well, is there a counterpoint? Yes, you just hold up a picture of Joe Burrow in their sunglasses in his press conference, because if they're going to win, it's just because Joe Burrow is that guy. And I don't want to bet against him, but I think the Rams are just a better football team and more equipped to win this game.
All right, we got, 13 days before the game takes place, so subject to change. We'll just leave it at that. You make some really good points. I've ridden Burrow here, and I'm kind of like, I'm just going to keep rolling with him. Although, it does make me wonder, all right, did they get there too soon? Because, all the points you made, you could have made the same points against Kansas City Chiefs. And the Cincinnati Bengals defense deserves a ton of credit for what they did in the second half, completely flummoxing Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, for almost the entire second half. But I'm going to go ahead with Burrow. To me, that picture that you hold up is kind of that wild card where it's the most important position in the game. Although the reason I'm kind of nervous about it is it does feel like this could be a coronation of Matthew Stafford. I did pick him to win the MVP in the preseason and to win the Super Bowl. So I might switch back to that one out of allegiance for him. It is in their backyard. We saw the Bucs do it last year in Tampa. They do have way more firepower. They have better, not only star power, they have better players at a lot of different positions. But I feel like the Burrow magic could run out because of his offensive line. And we saw that happen last year with Patrick Mahomes running for his life in the Super Bowl. And as great as he is, trying to make throws while he's horizontal to the ground, just couldn't do it. I have a feeling that's what we might see with Joe Burrow. I think he'll make it interesting because I've really been impressed, probably more than anything, is his ability to decipher what the defense is doing and exploit it quickly. So I think he'll avoid, a 9-sack performance that you saw against the Titans a couple weeks ago, maybe similar to yesterday where he's running around. But I think it'll be a little too late. But now with the 4.5, I'm going to stay with the Bengals. But again, subject to change. We'll see where this thing goes. But right now, I'm going to still ride the Joe Burrow train while I can.
All right, guys, let's recap some of the Super Bowl picks and props from Danny Kannell and Will Brinson here on CBS Sports HQ. Subject to change, because we have so much more time to break this down and get expert picks from the guys. Danny always looks for value, so he's going Jefferson at 13-1 to be the first touchdown scorer. Will's he's just looking for a quick payday. He likes Cup, chalk. He likes punts to start the game. The guys both love the under 24 in the first half and differ there on the game line, which is up to 4.5 now.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.